Good morning. Hope everybody's enjoying their week so far. We are at the end of it, so if it's not been that great, not to worry. It's almost over. So today I wanted to go over today's reading. I was inspired by today's reading from the Catholic Church to incorporate it with the theme of my video. And the video is about God is in control and just remembering that as much as we can. So I think I'll start with today's reading first, and then I'll go ahead and and talk about the current news remarks and that kind of thing. Remind everybody that it's important to vote. It's important to vote in the way that represents your values, that you have your values in order and you know how to prioritize those, and then also be a little bit more like of a utilitarian type of a thinker, and not necessarily, I mean, I don't know, if I were gay, I wouldn't necessarily want everybody to go have abortions. I don't think that's even fair, actually. I think that because you're gay, you're actually going to want people to get pregnant one day, since you're not going to be able to. Anyway, I'll get there when I get there. So, Ecclesiastes 3 1 through 11. Actually, Ecclesiastes is a good book. We had a reading yesterday, I think, on this book as well. And it's kind of poetic, but it's also, well, you'll see. There is an appointed time for everything and a time for everything under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot the plant, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to be far from embraces, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. What advantage has the worker from his toil? I have considered the task that God has appointed for the sons of men to be busied about. He has made everything appropriate to its time and has put the timeless into their hearts without man's ever discovering, from beginning to end, the work which God has done. I thought that was kind of, uh, it sort of stood out in a way for me, because it not like because I don't think we ever necessarily step back and think about that. We don't realize how that there was actual work involved in creating the universe, and the place that we call home, which, by the way, we're starting to find out more and more that it's very likely could be the only planet like this where there's life, and especially life um, like us humans. I mean, some of us are animals, I know, but not all. Okay. So I'll start with what I've been just kind of jotting down since yesterday. I wanted to go online last night, and I thought it's probably more appropriate to go in the morning, just because I don't know. It just seems like it's getting a little bit negative for me, but I'll start reading actually. I'm hating these days as Democrats are getting increasingly perverted. Not to mention, they are making everyone just that much stupider every time they open their mouth to try and make a logical argument. Again, friends, please don't buy into their sensationalism and instead hold them accountable for waiting to step up to the plate when they feel threatened. Here are some examples. I know that's heavy. You see what I mean? But I watched the GOP's press conference this morning, and I'm starting to sense, obviously, that nobody wants things to escalate and get out of hand between the two, views. But we should be able to handle people's views and be respectful of other people's views. I feel a little bit like maybe Republicans are backing off, like backing away. And I don't think that that's necessarily a good strategy because I don't think that Democrats give a hoot, like Obama used to say, right? Um, and I really, they don't. They don't give a hoot. So here are some examples of what I mean about comments that are just kind of like provocative and sensationalized, but are really not necessarily solutions based or even grounded in reality. So, New York mayor, criminal charges are being brought through a civil lawsuit for an allegation where there are no victims. All contractual obligations related to the premise for sustaining the case have been fully satisfied. You see what I mean? So it's a civil lawsuit, okay? And I'm learning about this. Actually, well, this is kind of basic because really, as far as I'm concerned, at least there's only really two types of lawsuits that you can bring or court cases, right? It could be criminal charges, and this could just be like the people bringing it. That's the reason we have police. They can arrest you based on because they know the law. They have to enforce it. And then there's the civil lawsuits, which is more for damages because there's somebody that is hurt and they brought charges. So they're very kind of two different types of lawsuits. They really are. I mean, that's just kind of basic knowledge almost, I'm not a lawyer. I've never even been in politics, but I know that much. And it's also on the news. But I'm just telling you because if you don't know, if you haven't been through the process of, like a family law case, I actually had to sue for defamation of character, so I'm a little bit familiar with that. I've been arrested for being a caring mother that some crackhead was trying to punk for just having control over me, and um, that was unfair to me. So I understand a little bit about that as far as my limited experiences with my family private life. And speaking of private, I'll get to that in a little bit. House Rep Raskin went on a rant like the dumb snob that he is to perpetuate the constant attacks on Trump, saying that his pardoning others of the crime is not okay, that it only benefited his family. All while nobody in Democrat run slums are paying for their crime to begin with. That's just common knowledge. We hear on the news that people are there's like no bail anymore. People are it's just all over the place. Okay, get real. This is not this is happening. It's really happening. Okay. Candidate for LA Mayor Karen Bass seems to think that because her opponent is wealthy and doesn't rely on special interest or Washington cronies, that it makes him less independent. She also assured us that Angelenos will be strictly dependent on federal funding, which means that we can uh, say so long to the idea that we can count on a self sustained mayor, which I think is important. I'm a local person. That's big for a conservative person. You don't want to rely on big government. Of course, she's a Democrat, and this is what they do, and they always get it wrong. It's just, it's just what's in front of us, and I do believe my eyes, actually. So, lastly, she said that her opponent must have stolen an idea which she's never made public, which involves the same failure of a democratic idea to have a czar. What is this with having a czar? Like, just isn't there like heads of departments for like things like this? I mean, there has to be a little bit of bureaucracy. I mean, I'm not like entirely against federal government. That's actually that's the point of federal government is to have that functioning bureaucracy that keeps everything unified. The union, the United States. Governor Gavin Newsom, thinks that being a good neighbor is neglecting to be the patriarch, respectful and protective of his daughters. Abortion should be avoided at all costs, and it starts with the patriarch. Again, these are all conservative values. I really do think that these are things that are missing in democratic run cities, states, etc. So to the Democrats, the show must go on. Okay, so like this is their approach. Well, the show must go on. Like they're probably standing there. We've failed at everything, but the show must go on. But that's all it is, a show, and a bad one at that. Republicans are the politicians that show restraint, even those that can't pick a lane. Pick a lane, any lane. What's his name? Caruso. Because you don't want to decide one day that you want to be a Republican again and then maybe an independent, or maybe you do, but it doesn't matter because if you're conservative, I'm okay with that. I don't care what you call yourself. Okay, so but don't be deceived. While Democrats are struggling with maturity, we need to pick up the slack and know that this is the way the world will be sometimes. If we allow them to deceive us, we'll be put into a frenzy against one another, rioting, getting violent every time one of those has a hissy fit. Just know that their time is short and that we have a brighter future when they're finally out of the way. They can bring the fight on all day long. I can be a little bit assertive. That's okay, right? Right? No? Okay. Well, I do keep my hands to myself. Trust me. Okay. As you know, as you know, I worship God, and I make sure that it's understood that I'll always oppose them from playing the role of overlord. I'm completely ready to divorce myself from this administration and any other like them in order to honor God and uphold my faith. And I dare say that any dirty Democrat intimidated by my faith is also among the most corrupt. By the way, you better believe that Muslims will fight with tooth and nail to protect their younger but not better faith. So they took their faith from the Judeo-Christian faith, and it's okay for them to fight for theirs. I'm sorry, but we were here first. Sometimes that means a lot. When you're the first, it means a lot. It goes a long way. Democrats might consider the murdering of the unborn a constitutional right by extension of our rights to privacy, but I think this premise better applies to morals, the right to life, the pursuit of happiness, and the like. If we don't fight back, this administration will chain us. I couldn't wait to say that. All starting with the freedom to our own mind, as we've seen the last 2 years, while they destroy the rich fabric of our great country. That's important, right? Minorities in current office are simply seem to be power hungry to me. Obviously, their claim of feeling threatened or treated unequally has other solutions that don't involve debilitating those of us minorities that like tacos but don't like to be called one. Maybe I was getting a little, it was really late last night. I refuse to go along with their negative mentality, and I will not be intimidated by their tyranny. Enough is enough. Our faith is too important. Republicans want solutions now. Please contact any Republican to get more information, because I'm told that um, that they do have solutions, while Democrats are saying that they don't. So I'm just assuring you they do. So please get together and discuss that. Thank you. Appreciate that. Let's pray that if riots are instigated once again, that we're able to rise above the enticement. I claim to have authored this paper at my own proud will, by the way. So that's all. That was lengthy. What else? 14 minutes. Yeah, it's nice to stay under 15 minutes. Oh, I actually forgot to tie how the reading, I actually forgot the reading altogether last time, but I think that it's important for us, especially because of tensions rising with, and I'm actually pretty receptive to everything out there. So I know that there's tension. And I can see that again, Republicans are, being restrained, and obviously is if they had to let Democrats win in order to keep everything at bay, they actually would like tone it down. Um, so I think that also um, what's important is that we give the youth a voice, and that we can show them that we can be adults and we can have a healthy debate, and that it's really not about winning or losing. It's about a better future. And so I don't think that we should lose sight of that because people might not be able to conduct themselves properly. Like those are the few bad apples. Just like it shouldn't have been the reason why police are defunded because of Rampart or something. But it's going to happen, and you just have to put those aside and keep going for the good for the good of the rest of us. So where was I? Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessary to like call people names or anything like that. But I also think that even if somebody did, it really shouldn't. If it offends the other person, it's kind of like weak of them too. It's like, who cares? Like that's like my choice of words, and it doesn't. Um, Anyhow, people should be a little bit, especially in politics, able to handle that. But back to the reading. God is in charge. God is in charge, and I happen to believe that if we do right by God, that things are gonna be like a lot better for us, and that if we don't, that we're not going to be so well off. And we just have to respect that, and we don't do that anymore. And actually, this is how I was starting to open, is yes, there's going to be certain groups that haven't been represented, and okay, do you want, I mean, they still have the avenue for um celebrating their freedom and choices, and why should I have to get imposed on when we can impose on them and they have their freedom of choices? I mean, that's obvious, right, to anybody, hopefully. And it should be obvious to them. So I think shame on them, really, like that you have this avenue of expression, because of conservative people, because people, when you're conservative, is if you allow yourself choices, that means that you have to respect that for other people too. Um, so I don't know, I mean, I think people should like seriously knock it off, like stop it. Thank you. All right, with that, have a great Friday and great weekend. See you next time. Bye. Bye.